YouTube. It's been a while. This is going to be the new structure of my YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing cooking videos. Starting off with a challenge video that the cameraman has neatly set of making a hyper spicy tonkotsu ramen. And when I say hyper spicy, this here is the rehydrated chilies as well as the mushrooms go on top. Then that there is a red chili, a green chili, 2 habaneros, 2 ghost peppers, and 2 Maruka scorpion chilies. For those of you who don't know, ghost peppers are the 3rd hottest chili on earth, and scorpions are the 2nd. I also have a tiny little bit here that's going to go into the topping, as I'm doing a Tantan Men style ramen. This is Crazy Bastard Sauce, Carolina Reaper and Blueberry. I also have here Trinidad Scorpion and Clementine, and I'm pretty sure he's got other spicy shit in the house that I'll be using as well. First of all, this is the making of, and I said we're making Tantan Men. Traditionally this is done with pork mince. I'm doing it with turkey. And I'll put a step-by-step guide of what I'm doing. First of all, you want to fry off your mince. Choppy, and there might be sections that are missed. This is because I'm unfortunately filming this on my old phone, as my new one ate shit. And the food might be getting corrupted. So if you are seeing this, good job. If you aren't seeing this, then we're torturing ourselves for nothing. First things first, you want a little bit of oil to fry off the turkey mince, as turkey mince is a lower fat content than pork mince, so it will be a little drier. It's probably a bit too much oil. Now what I'm going to do whilst I'm waiting for that to heat up is actually prep the soy sauce, because as I said I was adding this in to the Tantan Men, but because there's that little in the bottle, I'm going to have to figure out how to open this soy sauce. Oh, the fuck.
Should have opened it before we started.
There we go. I'm going to add that in and just shake it up just so there's...
It's not dry.
I do not know what that sizzling is because there's nothing in that pan yet.
That'll probably be something on the...
On either on the bottom of the pan or on the cooker. Yeah. So I'm just going to do that.
We're at the 3-minute marker.
There we go.
So did you...
And then
did you say stop or pause?
stop and then start again, because then I'll start a new video pan.
Okay.
So now that the pan is heat up, you put your mince in the pan. You get something to stir it with, and then you just break it up. Because Tantan Men, you want a dry, crumbly texture, but not too dry, because you do need to form it on top of the ramen. Now, as that's frying off, before you add the other ingredients, I'll put a step-by-step guide of what the basics of a ramen is. The basics of a ramen are, you want your tare, your aroma oil, your broth, your noodles, and your toppings. For us, we've got the aroma oil, is going to be Ryu chili oil. The tare is going to be soy sauce, blitzed up with those chilies. The broth is going to be instant tonkotsu broth. I will hopefully in the future show you how to make a proper tonkotsu broth. Noodles, dried egg noodles, once again in future hopefully make fresh ones. And the toppings are the Tantan Men, as well as kikuragi woodier mushrooms, spring onion, and a bit of smoked sausage. We were going to do an ajitama egg, but when we checked the eggs we were out of date. By like 2 days. It's frying off the mince. Let's just get it a dry, crumbly texture and just make sure it's cooked through, because you don't want to eat raw meat. As unless it's steak or tuna or salmon, like fish. I should explain this because I'm a big proponent of sushi. I like sushi, and I eat my steaks blue rare. It's finally, I'm going to get myself a drink.
Just bite it and drink it. Jesus.
Cameraman is telling me how to drink a Capri Sun, despite me being almost 30. Still probably a bit too old for a Capri Sun. Now that I'm rehydrated, my mints is still coming along nicely. I would show you, but unfortunately we're on this fixed camera thing because the camera has to be plugged in. So if I don't know if that's in shot.
There we go.
There we go. As you can see, it's browning up nicely. It still has a little while to go. Now traditionally Tantan Men is actually pork mince cooked with miso, soy sauce and sake. Now I don't have any sake, so that will be omitted. I do, however, have white miso paste. Alright, now that that's browned off, I want to get a teaspoon. On that towel. Now with this teaspoon, what I'm going to do is add a teaspoonful of white miso. Use the miso to your preference. I use white miso because what I've had, I would prefer to use red miso as I like the slightly stronger flavour. Make it a teaspoon and a half because this is actually quite a lot of mince. And then add soy sauce. Now, if you don't like spicy, just omit the parts where I'm making spice. Like, you don't have to mix this with the thing. At this point, you would also add your sake. Like I said, I don't have any. So, once the start of that, it's all nice and coated. Try not to put bits onto the oven. Especially if you're using a gas hob rather than an electric one like I am, because that's a surefire way to start setting on fire. And there'll be quite a bit of liquid in this, especially if you're using turkey mince. At this point you want to keep this cooking until said liquid evaporates, then it forms almost like a sticky sauce. I am to do a tonkotsu ramen, just a normal one, with chashu pork. I will, however, the recipe will just be with the chashu, but tonkotsu ramen, unless I'm making it from scratch, will be the same ramen recipe as this one. Now, this is actually going to take a little bit of time for that to boil off, so whilst we're waiting for that, we're going to make our tare. For that, I'm going to use a chopping board and a knife. Now ideally, you'd wear gloves for this part. I, however, don't have gloves with me, so wish me luck. For this particular curry I'm making, this particular tare I'm making is the hyper spicy stuff. So you get your chilies, and just want to chop them up. Nice and fine. Like I said, ideally you want to be using gloves for this bit, but I don't have any. Just keep an eye on your mince, what you're doing this, make sure it doesn't burn. You also want to chop up your chilies because they're going to be screwed if someone gets both of the Ruby Scorpion chilies. They will die. Now, if you don't want it as spicy, you take the seeds out. But as this is a challenge, cameraman Sean,
Yes.
we're leaving the seeds in. Now, at this point, you might want to turn your. At this point, you might want to stab a fly that keeps flying around the kitchen. Turn the 30 minutes down, as it is spitting quite a bit. Now, these chilies don't have to be finely chopped because, well, I'm going to be fair to us, these have been in the freezer for a while, and they're kind of fucked. It's also the worst time to get an itchy face.
Don't touch your face.
Yes, as you've probably heard my cameraman there, do not touch your face after cutting these unless you want to go temporarily blind.
Oh, pretty
Or
much.
permanently blind.
Yeah.
Right, next one's ghost peppers. I got these dried, so they've been hydrating for a while. Remember to remove the stems from your chilies. Yeah! You spat at me. Right. Like I said, the chilies just need to be roughly chopped because they are going in the tare. After this, I'll show you what to do to make the tare. This is where, ideally, you'd have an immersion blender, but as I'm cooking at my cameraman's house, and he doesn't, so it'll be a little bit different. So, what you want to do, you want to toast these off. Yes. Into a bit of oil. Immediately wash your hands. Now I have a small cut in my hand, so the fact that I'm not screaming in pain means I've done that right. Yeah, that's getting there. Nice. Maybe advisable when you're doing this to also wear a respirator. Ah. So, that mince is now ready, nice and caramelized. So what we're going to do, turn that back ring off, move this to the front ring, so it just starts stinging a bit faster. Now what I am going to do to this is add some pre-chopped jalapenos.
On a stick.
They are not on a stick. You know,
Jalapeno.
unfortunately I'm making pickle brine on the oven. I will get the cloth.
Make sure it's wet first.
Yeah, otherwise that would quickly fall apart. Yeah. One thing you shouldn't do, make a mess.
Yeah.
You don't switched on the extractor fan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. Now, as this is our tarry, or our aroma oil, there's a few other things that need added. For example, I'm going to hunt those out. These are our toppings for later. I will tell you what they are later. But this one, we want to add a bit of soy sauce to this as well. Let's bring that back to the boil. Now the reason you're doing this is because you don't want big bits of chili in this. So ideally, this will be strained. So what you want to do now, because a lot of that chili will actually be strained out. Now like I said, ideally, you'd want a blender to keep as much of this in. You want to turn that off just now and let that steep for a little bit. And whilst that's doing that, we'll work on the next bit, which is the last pot. Well, one of the last pots I'm going to need, because I need one for the broth and one for the noodles. She's afterwards. Actually, Loser should do the dishes. You do have milk, right?
Yeah, it's in the
Good.
fridge.
Right, so one of these pots will be for the noodles. Right now we want the tonkatsu broth. So I want these. These are the instant ones. And a pair of scissors.
In the sink.
They're in the sink, thank you. What you want to do is follow the instructions. They're all in Japanese, so I'm actually winging this bit. Because, believe it or not, I don't actually speak Japanese.
Konnichiwa.
That. That looks, well,
Interesting.
it doesn't look as much worse than the Matsudae stuff, to be honest. And, well, the Matsudae stuff's really good once it's actually made. So. Oh! I've just noticed something. Now, I can't read Japanese, but numbers, however, are universal. It's 270 mils of water, so it is actually 1 per person. So I need, what's 270 times 4? Say 600 mil of water.
Well, unfortunately, you're kind of using a jug.
I'm going to deal with that in a minute. Smart horse.
I do try.
I should point out that in the last video you saw, as the video of us tasting this will actually be going up first, there is a high chance I may kill the cameraman. This video will explain why. Right, so what I want to do now is, I know I'm out of shot, but I'm going to drain off my mushrooms, so I need the jug.
There we go.
Now I need 600 ml of water. Is, well, there. More or less about them. So when I add that, there's tonkatsu mix, bring it to boil. So we need to take a little while. Once that's doing that, I'm actually going to take this time just to put some of this rubbish in the bin so I don't get screamed at later on. I can hear you giggling. also be an idea to do. Get it down the ramen bowls.
Yep.
Now, with these ramen bowls, I'm actually going to pre-dose them with the aroma oil. Like I said, is this. Now, normally this is to taste, as we're doing a spice challenge, it is chili oil. We'll do a tablespoon in each bowl. There we go. It's about even. I should point out that I haven't actually said this. Don't try this at home. I'm a professional idiot.
What does that make me then?
You're the one that volunteered that challenged me to this. This is karma. Right, that is the tonkotsu starting to come to a boil. Now, I want to get the noodles on. You really need to get that tablet, mate. You really need to get that tablet. Now I want to swap these round because I just want to keep that warm now. Bring that water to the boil. Is that one? That one for that one?
Yeah.
Are you sure? No, it's not. That's the.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. You put your noodles into boil. Grab your water noodles. So,
Don't drop.
don't drop water soap. They will boil down. It's not, admittedly, I guarantee you, there's probably a Japanese enthusiast, or someone actually that lives in Japan, watching this video, screaming at the screen that I am a heretic. And they'd be right.
He was feeling.
Let's not get on Uncle Roger's radar, please. As much as I'd like the views, I don't want to annoy him.
Why you don't want to get Uncle Roger involved?
I'd rather make him proud of me, rather than
Well, you are using a wok, so.
I am using a wok. I am also, however, using prepackaged egg noodles, not proper ramen noodles. So, and prepackaged tonkotsu broth, not proper tonkotsu broth. So, doing that, what I'm going to do is move the mushrooms out, because we're in the final stages now. So I'm going to strain that into the jar. And then use your wooden spoon to squeeze as much of that through. Now I'm using a colander, not a sieve. Squeeze as much of that through as possible. Like I said, ideally you would blend this. So ideally you'd actually be using a nice tarry, not this liquid death that I'm creating.
A challenge is a challenge.
That is true, a challenge is a challenge.
not even being that spicy.
This is true. However, that means that although we will succeed in eating it, I'll have actually failed the challenge.
I mean, it might not be spicy to you, but
Oh, well, yeah, there's also that. Although this will be spicy to me, man.
well, at least we've got milk nearby.
Once that's thoroughly mashed, to the point where there we go. I do want to just do that, just add a little bit of that in, just to. So, next, you'd add your tare, which technically is another aroma oil in this case. I'll turn that down. To the mix. Like so. And now I'm going to actually try this broth on its own to see actually what it's like. Not as good as the matsuda stuff. Nice. Not as good as the matsuda stuff. Now we just need to wait for the noodles to be done.
What about the smoked sausage?
That just got up. I'm going to that one. So whilst we're waiting the noodles, need to prep.
Right at the bottom.
Thank you. Smoked sausage, I said I'm going to put on spring onions and with your mushrooms. Now, unfortunately, he's only got one chopping board, so wipe that down. Use the other side of it.
And make sure you don't touch your face.
Yeah. You'll see me do that. I'm scratching with the thing. Don't touch your hand. If you touch anything that's touched chilies, don't do it. Like I said, I'm a professional idiot. Now I'm going to use scissors to actually cut up the mushrooms. No, I'm not. It's a knife. Fucking normal person. So, there are many bits of this video that are boring. So I may as well tell you what I've been doing. I've been playing Cult of the Lamb. I've been playing it for...
Ever since you came.
What?
Ever since you came.
Since I came over, which would have been at 10 AM. And already, I'm further than my counterpart by the camera. I've been playing for like, what, a week?
Yes.
So, who's better at running demonic cults?
That's because you don't have a heart.
No, it's because I've got experience running demonic cults.
And plus you play a lot of D&D.
Yeah, in which case I play a little warlock that's currently running a demonic cult. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Just on him, my DM sees this. Yeah. I know. If my DM sees this, I know she's not a demon, she's an ancient dragon goddess. But, so what am I going to call this round?
Death.
Just liquid death.
The death ramen.
Worried about.
Actually, it's just a bit of water.
Also, ramen enthusiasts, can you tell me what the fuck these are?
It's a lily.
I mean, it looks like a ladle, but they come with ramen sets, and I don't actually know what they're for. This is boiling over.
Put too much in it.
No, it's because it's the pressure's forcing up the noodles.
Ah.
This is
Good.
good iron.
And just keep an eye.
So ideally I would do those noodles in a bigger pot. I've used all these bigger pots.
Uh-oh.
You're right then.
The numbers started flashing.
What do you mean the number started flashing? Oh. What do you mean? Ah!
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. That's the problem.
What noodles?
I think the noodles are done. So I'm just going to finish prepping up these toppings. There's a lot of mushrooms here.
That's fine.
Those, and then spring onion each. Top and toe spring onions. And then just
NANI?!
into little rings. And last thing you need to chop up the smoked sausage. Now, that's all recording now.
Yeah, it's still recording, but not for long.
Well,
Because I think your memory's going to run out.
people may think that smoked sausage doesn't belong in ramen. To which I would say, don't knock it until you try it. Now,
Yeah, it's got 3 minutes 53 afterwards. I'm going to delete some stuff over extra from the
Mm.
video.
right, so, now, next thing we do, get a ladle,
Leel.
put up some lots of broth, and then put the noodles in. As now we are ready to serve. Split the broth evenly between the two bowls. And look at the red liquid death floating on top of it. And then dish up the noodles, which are probably not all there. I drain the noodles first, don't I?
That would probably help.
Yes.
Still 3 minutes 59 left.
Oh, okay.
Right, so dish up the noodles between two bowls. Then pray to God that you're not losing your footage for the next part. Ideally, use proper ramen noodles or cook the noodles in batches. Use noodles that come in nests. Because the problem we have now is noodles spanning both bowls. Noodles are hot.
Well, yeah, you just cooked them.
You're gonna regret this, boy. Honestly. So-
What's the worst that can happen?
Got those there. Now you want to do mushrooms. On both bowls. Spring onions. Smoked sausage. On both bowls. And then your Tantan men, which ideally you'd be serving because it'd be a bit more cohesive, but as this is turkey mince,
Unfortunately, I didn't have anything else. So.
yeah, pork mince is getting really hard to get in it. And that is the hyper spicy ramen. Please stop the video so I can delete some footage.